Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to optimizing the data scraping process. I'm going to give it about a minute just so more attendees can join, and then we'll get started. Thank you guys so much. So today we're going to be discussing optimizing the data scraping process. We've spent most of the week discussing how we can build an appropriate agent to get the data we need. And today our purpose is to optimize the process of when we harvest it. We're going to be focusing mainly in the web console and the features that are available there. So get started, I want to focus on the agent section of the web console. The agent section of the web console has different settings when it comes to harvesting. It has our harvested results, and it also includes notifications, publishing, exporting, clearing, scheduling, copying, and has the options to view our agent in different formats as far as just viewing the data, fields, or even the jobs. So we're going to begin with the harvesting settings. This is something that we've reviewed in our previous webinars, but it is so important. In our harvesting settings, we'll get there by selecting an agent and clicking on the tool gear in the top left-hand corner. The first tab is called Method. Method is how we are gathering our data. It will let you know if you're using Premium or if you're using Standard. And this by default will be set to what is needed for your agent. But if you come to a point where you decide that you want to use premium harvesting on a specific site, you can modify that here inside the web console. We have our behavior. We've talked about this as well. This is how our harvesters will conduct themselves while they're mining the data. We have store item history, which will help us save our collections time over time. Request web images during processing is something that we use when we're harvesting data. When data is being harvested, by default, our harvesters don't request images. Is anyone else having a hard time hearing? Okay, thank you guys. Perfect. I just had a comment that it wasn't working, so I wanted to make sure all of you guys could hear as well. Awesome. If you guys have questions throughout this course, please feel free to chat in. If it's a specific use case to what you're working on, and you message that to in this chat later on, I can get back to you on some ways, and we can even do a workshop together where we work through them and can optimize your agents together. So that it's been really beneficial for our customers. So if you do and you are interested, chat in. I'm glad your sound is working. Thank you guys. By default, when we're harvesting, our harvesters don't request or process those images because it's not needed to get the information. We can still gather images without having to process those images, but if your agent isn't running in the web console well, but it's running in the builder, this could be a potential troubleshooting technique you could do. You can test this by going into your builder. We'll go there now, so I can just show this to you. So in your builder, instead of having to test it inside your web console, we could go to, let's see if it'll let me drop this in. We can select on our request navigation, click on request blocking, add new, and just collect images and save that. And then we can test our agent inside the builder and not request images to see if that affects the speed or the harvesting there. So just keep that in mind if you run into any issues when it comes to running slower or not getting the information in the web console. The last one is a great way to test your information. So that last check mark is to stop the agent when it's used X amount of credits. This is great when you have a huge project that you want to make sure you're getting the right information. It's worked really great inside the builder, and you just want to verify that it's going to harvest correctly. You can check that box so that it will stop when it's used 500 credits or 1,000 credits, just so that you can monitor the information that's being received. In this specific setting, make sure that you deselect it when you do an official run, or else if you have more results, it will just limit it. Our error handling changes the harvesting settings when an error occurs. Always set it to stop, never to ignore. This check mark postpone the job for X minutes. This will be helpful if you know that your website is going to hit an error. Maybe the website just takes a little bit longer for it. You can check that box and then it will just try to reload those and continue on its way. The advanced tab is something you guys don't even need to worry about. When you are working in the advanced tab, that's usually when you are on the phone with our support team or your client success manager. And if you do want to know information on here, this auto block, you can set your request navigation blocking right here inside your harvesting settings. Underneath, we have our notifications. This is where we can stay informed and involved about what's happening in our agent without having to live inside of it. You can list as many emails as you want. So in this case, I would have training, support, and those would be the 2 emails that I would send notifications to. I like checking all of these boxes, especially when it's completed or if it hits an error. These last 2 are just a safeguard. They don't usually happen frequently, but it's always good to be informed and involved. We had somebody ask what it means when it stays in queue for longer than 15 minutes. This is what happens when there's a lot of high traffic on a website. We want to respect the users that are currently on the website so that they still have a positive experience and we don't break their network. So when an agent's in queue for longer than 15 minutes, there's more traffic on that website, and it's limiting us from having our harvesters go on and get that data at that moment. It usually doesn't last any longer than 15 minutes, and then it will jump on and be able to get the data it needs. This is the fun part. Once you get your data, what do you want to do with it? Where is it going? How do you want it to get there? Are you manually sending it? Because if you are, let's save you time. This publishing determines the format, view, or location that you want to publish this data. So I say view because we know how to create custom views. We know if we just want to have it include the prices of the items, then we can change this view from the tool gear and select the view that we want to have sent to us. We can even choose the file format. Once you choose where you want it to be sent, you can save it and have it published now, or you can set it on a cadence of the interval that you'd like it sent. Excuse me. Next, we have scheduling. Scheduling, oh, excuse me. Let me just get my throat not all froggy. I think that should be better. Okay, we're back. So with scheduling, scheduling. You can set this on any cadence that you'd like. You can do it daily, weekday, monthly. Some people have projects that they just run on a quarterly basis, and you can have this set to run throughout the quarter, so you're gathering that information, or maybe you just want it once at the end of the quarter, then that will all be available for you. We're going to set some custom settings on ours today as well. If you need the data right then and in the moment, then you can download the file directly to your device. This can include a view, the file format, or you could even have the history of jobs. Something I want to touch on with scheduling and publishing is we can do an email, Amazon, Azure Storage, Dropbox, Google. But if you have a really technical development team, or maybe you yourself are technical, and you guys, if you have an enterprise license, you have access to our API. So you're able to just pull that data directly and put it into your database if you do have an enterprise license, which is amazing. Okay, we're going to practice what we just learned. So here in my web console, I want to set up a cadence. We're going to use our horoscopes. I'm going to go specifically to my agent group. One of the great things about our agent group is that we're able to set these settings across the board for all of the agents. So I'm going to go to my agents, and we're going to click on harvesting. I'm going to make sure that we store item history and that it's set to stop and stop. And save that. And because it is so important to me that I know about my zodiac sign and how I'm aligned with the universe, I'm going to set up my, excuse me, I'm going to set up my agent to run on a schedule. We can do an interval, so it starts every Saturday and it repeats on an hourly basis. So if you have an agent that needs to run multiple times a day, this would be a great option for you. I want mine to run daily and repeat every one day. And I want it to run at 5:30 a.m. because I want to know as soon as I get into work. And I'm going to save that. And you'll notice that all three of my agents updated. They have new icons right here. I have this calendar to say it's scheduled, and I have this clock that notifies that it's going to store my item history. There's a few more things we want to set up. I want it to publish, and I'm going to have it send me an email. I want it to be in an Excel file, and I want it to only be my sign. I want this to publish when it completes. So I'm going to save this. I could additionally set this so that it's not just my sign, but maybe I just want it only to be sent when I have data results in about money. And so whenever it talks about money, I want it sent to me. Then I can set up those parameters so that it will have like conditional there. And that will be based off of the filters that you create through the views, and then setting that to publish on a sequence, which we'll go over here in just a moment. The last thing, the synchronize is applicable to your agent group, where we're going to apply this across the board to all of our agents. I'm going to run all three of these agents right now so we can get another set of data. You'll notice that two of them are running and then one of them is in queue. We are also going to, so we have scheduled it, we have published, set up the publishing settings and enabled notifications. That can be a checklist that you make right now for your agents. So you can say, 1, do I have them scheduled? Do I need them to be scheduled? 2, is it publishing? And where do I need it to be published? Is there more than one place that I need to make sure it's published to? Always enable notifications. So right now, all of this data is these agents, I have to click on them. They're going to run on a schedule, but I have to, but what if I created a group where I had ran these agents and it kicked off another set of agents? So we're going to talk about that a little bit more. We have this feature called the sequencer. Again, this is available to any of our enterprise customers, which is one of the best things about being an enterprise customer, is because you have a designated representative and you have access to the sequencer. You can accomplish some of the same capabilities with the sequencer by using jobs, but sequencer is like agent building inception. You're able to do things that are amazing. We'll go through it. I'm getting ahead of myself. So the sequencer automates a list of actions to perform a sequence of steps, meaning you can run an agent, I can delete a collection, I can clear specific views. So clearing, and we'll go through these a little bit. I just get so excited, you guys. So clear views is would be helpful if you're pulling all this information and you have a view where it's the last 50 items and you want to have those last 50 items deleted. And so it will look for that view that says last 50 items. It will delete those 50 items and then it will start the sequence over again. We can also set a sequence of publishing to update a field value or to run a sequence. So you could have a sequence running a sequence. We're going to do this on a couple of our agents. First, I want to talk about collections because fully understanding what a collection is and how it works will help us when we're creating a sequence. Collections can be data from agents, a standard collection, a combined collection, or we could import a collection. Why is this important? Well, if we go to our agents into collections, we have just a standard collection and an agent collection. I want to upload a collection in here that I can use in future agents. And additionally, I may want to combine some of my results. Right now with my horoscope, I have to look at each one of those individually. And so I won't be able to view the data collectively, which I will want to do. So let's go back into our collection list information. So this is how your collections will apply to your agent building. When we're on a website that may require like set user input information, for example, airline sites may ask for a date range, or a retailer may ask for zip codes, or a job listing site may ask them to enter search terms for the kind of job that you want to find. These search terms are going to be sent to their database and then return results. This is an example of one of those where we'd have to enter in a zip code and then we'd have results that would be displayed below. When we are searching for these, there's a couple different ways we can do this. If there are multiple, it gets a little complicated. But if it's simple entering this list, we can use our collection list to upload into our agent. So when you use Mozenda to automate tasks on sites that ask the user to input some information, you will often need Mozenda to input like several inputs. Like for example here, I would need the input for Paris, arriving at New York City, and different dates, as well as the number of passengers. So if we want to capture the price of the hotel room for several different dates, or maybe we want to find the closest store with several different zip codes, one way to handle this is to create several copies of an agent and put different user actions in and then combine them together. It requires a lot of manual repetition, but because if anything changes in the site, you have to update all of those different agents, but it helps you get really clean data. We're going to be going over how we can use a combined collection and how to use a collection that we upload to build an agent and have some conditional formatting there. So let's try it. So here we talked about our standard and we talked about our agent collections. Now we're going to do a combined collection. We're a huge jazz fan here in Utah. We're loyal, even if we're not quite noticeable if you guys are NBA fans, but we're hopeful. So here we have the roster from last season, and I want to combine these into one group of collections. So I just selected the 5 that I wanted, and I'm going to click Combine Data. It has these pre-selected, but if I didn't, then I could checkbox the ones that I wanted. I'm going to say NBA, Utah Jazz, NBA starting lineup. Then from here, I'm going to click on Create a Collection. It's pretty simplistic, but something to note is I chose a most beautiful example. These have all of the exact same fields. So all 5 have these. So your agents do need a match for them to be able to be combined. So that's when using an agent group or a template would be really nice, because if they do have the same fields, they'll line up perfectly and you can combine them together. If you are trying to add maybe some agent lists or agent collections that have 12,000 items, it may take some time for them to all combine together. I can select each one of these fields individually and click Add Field, but I like to move efficiently. So I'm going to click on this in the top right hand side, and it's going to move any field that matches in all 5 to the other side. And there we go. I'm going to click Done. And now it's going to be loading and refreshing the data so that all of that information is now stored in my combined collection. Something that's fabulous is that every time that I run these agents now, it's going to update their collection as well as my collection combined group. We're going to let this refresh for 1 second. And then we'll move on to our data lists and how to use those when it comes to an agent. While we were with our sequences, if this is a capability you have, I would definitely play around with it. It has been one of the most rewarding tools and features to use because everything can be automated in what you're doing. So let's see, it's refreshing. While that's refreshing, I'm going to show you 2 different agents that are split up into 2. This is a way for you to use your data list to get the best information. This webinar, part 1, it is finding just the most simplistic information. So I'm getting the website, product name, average, total reviews, price, and product URL. This is allowing me to just have one purpose for my agent. So my main purpose is for it to find this product URL. You'll notice that there's a key here. That's signifying that it is a unique field. We even have, so as I've gone through and I can view like my fields here, I clicked here and then modified and marked it as a unique field. So set as a unique field. We even have a comment from our team that's on with us that they have love sequences and it saved you guys enormous amount of time. Thank you so much for chatting in. That is so amazing to know. I'm obsessed with them. So this agent right now, it has, because it has a input list, which is the product URL, this is a potential that when I run part 2, I can split these URLs so that I'm running 5 of these URLs at a time and running them in parallel. So let's look at what it looks like inside the builder for those of you who are not familiar with how it would look if you split an agent up into 2. So this has extreme request blocking on. So I'm going to go to settings and I'm going to minimize my request blocking to just level 1 and save that. And it tells me which website I'm getting, the average, total reviews, and price. And I have this custom value, which is just saying, okay, we're going to get it from Best Buy. And then on my product list, I'm just getting the product name, the total number of reviews, and the product URL. That's it. We're done. It's also going to the next page, so I guess I got ahead of myself. That's it. That's all we're doing for this agent, because these URLs is what is going to set us apart when we do our part 2 agent. So we're going to go to Best Buy part 2. And you'll notice that I still have the product URL set as a unique field. And I have a view that's called pricing. So I'm looking for Samsung that have the total reviews that is greater than 30. We'll go to all items ever found. See, it's only showing the limited ones because I have a custom view there. I'm going to go into settings and then go to design, and that's going to open up my agent. Because like I said, this is taking our part 1 data list and inputting it into part 2. Our starting page is Mozenda. So from our starting page, then we're going to add an action that's inputting a list. We're going to choose from collections, and I'm going to choose webinar Best Buy part 1. And the data that is pulled from this first agent is going to load into this second page. Oh, right now it is not loving that, but when I would, because it hit an error earlier. So when I click refresh, all of the items should be included right there. From there, I'm going to load this URL. And then I'll be able to get, this will load the product details of that television. And let's cancel this. I want it to go to minimum request blocking. I'm going to refresh. And I think we're going to clear all these and refresh again. So when you split an agent up into two parts, it's going to help your agents run more efficiently. It also helps with the website. It creates less traffic on the website. Because here on page 1, instead of starting at bestbuy.com, I'm starting at Mozenda, and then I'm loading my URL. Once I load my URL, then I'm going to be put onto the website. And I'm just going to this one website, getting all of my information, and then I'm leaving. So it's really efficient. If you can split your agent into multiple agents, that's going to really set your agent apart. So here I'm getting my description, brand name, display name, screen type, and all these images. But while it's doing that, it's going to be loading each one of these URLs. So when I refresh this, it's going to have a list of all of the products that I got from before. We're going to take off premium harvesting because we don't need that here. And we're going to let that test. Let's go back to our collections and see how that's looking. So it looks like we do have our combined starting lineup. And the data is still pulling in there. In our sequence, I have a couple of them set up. I have one for televisions, webinars, a new sequence, and I even set one up for horoscopes. Part of the reason I set one up for horoscopes is because I just wanted them all to run at the same time, and I was over clicking. I was tired of clicking all three, then clicking run. So what I did is I clicked add a step, run an agent, and I chose my horoscope agent that I wanted to run. So what if I wanted to add another one in there? It would ask me, it would look for a list. This is looking for an input list. And if it did find one, then it would split it up so that that agent could run in parallel with itself. With error handling, I like to have the job automatically resume once it hits the same error, like one time or two times. That just allows you to have a buffer there. But if you would like it to not automatically resume when it hits an error, that's okay. There is a limit on the number of times that the job will resume. It's about 30, so it won't just like continually try to resume. For parameters, we won't be focusing much on that today. So for my horoscope, I have these three all together. I want to add a step where I publish collection data. I want to publish this horoscope information, and I want this to go to, I want it to send me all items ever found. I want it to be the default view, and I want it to be in an Excel file sent to me through to my email. So that's part of the steps now. So I just created an entire workflow saying, okay, run all of these agents, then publish this, and then I'm actually going to say run another sequence, and I'm going to have it run my webinar television and select that. So additionally, in addition to running my agents, it's going to be kicking off another sequence that's going to be running my webinars. So I'm going to go back to all my sequences and click on webinar. And it's running webinar Best Buy Part 1 and then Best Buy Part 2. They have to run in order 1 and 2. They can't run at the same time. If you notice on my horoscope sequence, I have selected all 3 of these and then clicked, well, right now it's going to have me delete it. So if I wanted these to run at the same time, then I could click on, I am like spacing. Somebody might have to refresh me on that one, but you can select it to run all at the same time. Let's try one more time. Remove those 2 steps from the group, not it. We're going to figure it out. So, but I have these all running together so that when I'm ready, I can run this and then have it kick off my webinar television so that I can save that time. I can also set up notifications so that it will notify me when it fails, if it starts, if it completes, so that I'm always informed about what's going on. And to make it even more efficient, we can set it on a schedule. So I can say run this sequence on a monthly or weekly basis and notify me when it happens so I can check it off my list. We're going to add another, we're going to go back to our collections. We're going to try this one more time. We're going to add a collection. We're going to connect all of our horoscope ones together. And because there's different fields, it may not be an exact match, but it's good to see what that looks like so that we can fix that. We're going to combine this data, and I'm going to say horoscope. Oh. And I'm going to create that. And I'm going to say, look for all of the ones that have the same URLs. And right now that's monthly, sign today, URL, and weekly. So it's missing the month of because of capitalizations. So that's when it comes into play when you use your agent group so that you can make sure that it's all pulled, has the right spelling, right phrasing, and capitalization and case sensitivity. While that's waiting, we're going to split up our agent into 2 parts for our horoscopes. So I'm going to open up, I believe it's horoscope. A lot of requests are going on right now. We're going to make that a tab. So here I just want to have this, because there's 3 different sections of URLs that I can pull, I just want to use this first page as my URL and then have these be a separate agent as well. So I'm going to do File, Save As, and I'm going to be calling this horoscope part 3. And while that saves, then we're going to come here and we're going to delete this page, and we're going to delete this page, and we're going to delete this page. So now the only thing that our agent is doing is getting the sign and the URL. And that's it. So I'm going to File, Save As. I'm going to call this horoscope part 1 and save that. I'm going to need the URLs that I'm getting from this horoscope part 1 in my horoscope part 2. So inside my builder, I'm going to go to all agents, find horoscope part 1, and I want to run this. And then we're going to go back in here, do File, Open, and we're going to open up our part 3. And we are going to delete, we're going to change this. So we're going to delete the page item list and delete that. And we're going to change this to load a new page. Or sorry, we're going to add an input list, and we're going to choose that from our collections. We're going to make sure that it's from part 1 of horoscope. And then we're going to go into it, see how it has all of those URLs listed right there. It ran pretty quickly and we were able to get the information we needed. If I go into additional settings, there's some of these, like I wanted sign in URL to be in my agent in the final data set. So I'm going to add both sign and URL and save that. I'm then going to load a new page and put in my URL and add a page. Right now it's directing to page 5, so I'm going to change this so it goes to page 2 and save. So this part 2, I'm just going to load the URL and then go to these next items. Here with our horoscope, it's not as crucial to split it up into 2 because it's a pretty lean agent. With our other agents that you may have like 800 to 100,000 inputs. This will save you so much time. So we're going to test it and see how it loads and if it loads any differently or more quickly. It's still really, really quick. We helped minimize the traffic on the website, which is really awesome. So I'm going to click done. I'm going to save as part 2. And I can set these up in a sequence. In one of our sequences, something that would be, see how it's kicking off webinar now, which is awesome. We're going to create a new sequence from scratch. So I'm going to click new sequence. If there is, one of the reasons I really like using, breaking it up into 2 is I could use a use case where I want to make sure, say I want to get only the products that have 300 reviews or more. So when I do my scrape, I then want to publish the view of 300 reviews or more and only include those products. Then from that collection of data that is only that has that specific view, I can put that into my second agent. So then instead of looking for everything all the time, I can compare it. So instead of having to go through and have credits being used on every single item and then filtering that information, I can just do one agent that gets the total reviews and then have my second agent only pull those maybe 15 items and run a scrape on it. This is also extremely helpful if you are tracking changes, whether it be in text, whether it be image-wise. You can make your agent so it only looks for those specific changes and then put that into the next data list. And we'll go through that right now. Signs part 3. We're going to add a step. We're going to run an agent, and I want to do horoscope part 1 and select that. For error handling, I don't want it to automatically resume. I'm going to click save. So remember, part 1 is when we gathered our URLs, and part 2 is when we actually ran with the URLs. So I'm going to select part 2, and it will give me the option to split it. It says, okay, well, you could divide this into 2 concurrent jobs, so they're running in parallel. Here I'm going to increase this. I want it to run in maybe 6 concurrent jobs. There's only 12 items, and so I know that this is going to be really, really fast. When I save that, and we don't even need our part 3 because it's encompassing that in part 2. Then I'm going to, so let's run this and see how it goes. Right now it's in step 1 and step 2. We'll let that load while we look at our next website. This is that trucking website that I mentioned before, or dealer website, where we can go and enter in a zip code, find it. So if I do our zip code here, it will pull up all of these locations. I want to go and click on more details and then view dealer website. In order to get there, I don't want to manually type all of my zip codes. So I've created a file that we're going to upload into our input. This is an example of what it looks like. So I have all these different fields. I have my zip code, longitude, latitude, city, country, state, all of this information. Right now, I only want this column called zip code. So we're going to put this collection into our collection list. I'm going to make sure that's downloaded. It's best to have these in CSV files. That's the easiest way for Mozenda to read them. Okay, so our sequence, it's done. Let's see how fast this part 2 ran. So I'm going to click on my agent. We're going to go to part 2. See, it's 50% done. It's done 6 out of the 12 items, which is pretty fun. So these are in multiple sequences. I'm going to change my view to only view horoscope. So I can see if they have a combined data collection, if they're running in a schedule. All of this will be presented to me on my agent. Let's go to our collection. I'm going to click New Collection. I'm going to click From File on my computer, and I am going to import it. $100 and then I'm going to import my file. It's going to ask me which ones I want to include. The first row in the import contains field names. I marked that so that it knows what to look for. So it automatically gave me like zip code, longitude, latitude. We're just going to do all of it. We're going to do 100-mile zip list. And now I have all of that data inputted here. So for the agent builder, we're going to start our collection process. I have my URL. I'm going to start a new agent from this page. And I'm going to click here and I'm going to input. I have a created import list. So I'm going to pull this from a collection where it is that zip file. And I just want to do zip codes. So now my begin data list is including all of these zip codes. I'm going to add a click at the end of it. So we'll click find. So if we test this, it's rotating through each one of those zip codes and showing information. Great question. So somebody asked, how do you avoid getting duplicates when inputting a zip code? For example, if like the zip codes are right next door, it could come back with the same or similar results. That's a great question. So that a lot of that will come back to the web console and filtering out any duplicates. So we can note if there are duplicates, then remove it throughout the process. If there's a specific example where you feel like views wouldn't apply, please let me know and then we can work on that directly. Great question. What additional questions do you guys have about sequences, views, collections, or specific agents? We have a power user here when it comes to sequences. They have a sequence tip. So when including a sequence in a sequence, all actions after that nested sequence must not be dependent on the data that's nested in the first sequence because those actions will start running before that nested sequence is complete. Okay, thank you for pointing that out. That is such a good tip. So when we are running sequences, this second sequence, if I put my webinar part 2 in sequence 1 and then my webinar part 1 in sequence 1, then it's going, or 2, it's going to mix up and it won't be able to get the data because they're reliant on each other. If you have a login that could be disrupted from that, that's a really great tip as well. Thank you. I really appreciate that tip. That's great. Sounds like there's been some personal experiences on that side too. Yeah, definitely learning from experience. I'm going to go here and click. We're going to click here for more detail. You guys have been fabulous. I am so grateful that you guys have all attended and for your participation here in our webinar. We will be having a new webinar series that will be posted this afternoon. We're going to be focusing directly on pagination when it comes to navigating different pages, not just using our page list, but having more elaborate ways to paginate your page. We're going to do capture text and specifically as it relates to regular expression and capturing that data. It's going to be really fun, as well as another series similar to this. If there's a topic that you are interested in that you would like to learn more about, whether it be more technical and specific, please let us know. There'll be a survey sent out in the beginning of next week, and your feedback is so important to us. These webinars are fun for me, but they are really for you. And the more information that we have about what you need and what you're interested in, or maybe a personal experience, then that would be so great for us. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. We have, and I think we have, somebody suggested they had a question or a statement about when it's a dynamic web form field and you enter in an input address and then it shows up an address to choose from, how to navigate that. It gets a little tricky. You have to add in some click actions or look into the URL to see if there's something that notifies that you can put in the address or the location that you're looking for directly without having to click. So I'll add that onto one of our webinars. We can add when we're focusing on using a data list. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. A recording will be sent out. Please fill out our survey. It goes directly to me. So if you loved it, let me know. If you didn't, please let me know. I love your questions and ideas. Thank you.